This conference will now be recorded.
That's great. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today. My name's Jane Knowles. I'm Chief Executive of Somerset Activity and Sports Partnership, and I'm running this webinar with a number of colleagues. So Jake Hannis, who's our Senior Operations Manager, will be taking on the second half of the webinar, alongside Laura Carter, who's our Workforce Lead, and Hayley Bullock, who's collating questions for us today. I hope we don't have technical difficulties, but apologise if we do. Everybody has the commentary, so it will go on regardless. Somerset Internet can be a little tricky. I want to emphasise at the start of the webinar that we're not HR or financial specialists, but have worked with Sport England for many, many years and have been through some of these processes as an organisation in terms of with the government guidance. And so we hope we can be helpful and answer as many of your questions as possible. And if not, we will try to use our contacts in Sport England to come back with an answer if there is one, or talk to our accountants, etc. Cover the next slide, please, Jake. So just a bit of housekeeping before we start. We're obviously reliant on the IT working. If I could just remind everybody to turn their cameras off and mute your microphones, that would be really helpful. We'll be recording the webinar and we'll post this and the supporting slides out on our website, social media, and our Facebook page, which is SASP Clubs, Coaches and Volunteers, and you'll see that on the next slide. The slides will also be sent to you individually, so for those of you who haven't been able to join us and just want the recording and the slides, that will all come to you. Please use the comments function, which you'll see in the top right of most of your screens, to post questions during the webinar, and we'll get to as many of these as possible at the end of each section. But we will be posting a Word document with all of those questions and the answers as far as we're aware of them on our website. Can I have slide 3, please? So here's the useful contacts. It's likely there are not answers to all your questions at present, as everyone is working so fast. However, we can all pose questions at the coronavirus@sportengland.org, which is the dedicated email address for coronavirus at Sport England. I've used this last week and I'm still awaiting answers, so they're obviously completely inundated. So SASP might be the best bet for questions, as we're likely to answer them a whole lot quicker. And we also got contacts at Sport England, which we might be able to use for those questions that we can't answer directly or immediately. Please use my email. You can see jknowles@sasp.co.uk to email me or post questions. But also you can use our Facebook page, which is SASP Clubs, Coaches and Volunteers, to post questions. And then we can share those answers with everybody. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If you're thinking it, it's likely that other people are too. Like I said, we'll be putting the FAQs on our website, on the active workforce page, which you can see the link there for. And we also finally need to say that this information is correct as of today, on the 7th of April, but things change so fast, so please follow us on social media for updates as they occur. For those on the webinar that are sitting outside the SASP area, so are not under Somerset County Council, please refer to your individual active partnership for support beyond this webinar. If you're not sure who they are, then the link at the bottom of this slide will take you through to their contact details. So we're going to start with the thing that most people, I think, have probably come onto the webinar for, to talk about Sport England funding and their emergency fund. And then at the end of the Sport England section, we'll answer some questions if there are any, and then we'll move on to the government guidance section, which Jake will go through. The next slide, please. Okay, so this slide shows the Sport England funding announcement overview. They've been excellent at getting a really quick response out to our sector, faster, I think, than most other organisations. The last few weeks have been really challenging for everyone, and we're all trying to balance the needs of work, personal and voluntary commitments. We're also digesting and interpreting a massive information with the uncertainty over the length of the disruption. However, within this context, Sport England have announced £195 million worth of funding. Not all of it is new. Their priority is supporting the sector now and into the medium and longer term and keeping the nation active. The £55 million innovation funding has been announced, but there's little detail on this as yet. And we have a slide on that a bit later. We'll keep you informed of exactly what this looks like as information becomes available. However, we will focus on the £20 million of emergency funding over the next 10 to 15 minutes as recognition of the immediate short-term issues of cash flow or other financial commitments that you may have. The other funding on this slide will only affect you if you're already funded by Sport England. And you can see the Sport England website at the bottom. So the Sport England Community Emergency Fund is very light touch for grant aid and anyone can apply. It's an online process, easily found on the front page of the Sport England website. And once you click onto it, at the bottom of the page, past the FAQs, you'll find the button to apply. And this will take you onto the online application form. So as you'll go through some pretty standard questions, but probably the first thing is you'll get somewhere along that on page 2, you'll get a drop-down menu for the type of organisation you are. Local sports clubs are top of the list, alongside voluntary and community sector organisations. So you get a drop-down menu and you'll see local sports clubs at the top of the list, alongside voluntary sector and community organisations and small charitable trusts, as well as regional or county level organisations as leagues. There are also some other options which you will recognise if you are one of them, but there's also an option to choose other. So regardless of how you are constituted, please do apply if you are going to lose money due to coronavirus. So it's really worth applying regardless of how you are constituted. Better to be turned down than never know whether you could have got help. It's also worth highlighting that you can only apply once to this fund. And we will cover this later on. Could I have the next slide, please? So who can't apply? The fund is very much for the non-commercial piece of the sport and physical activities sector. So our large statutory organisations such as local authorities, including county, district and parish councils, aren't eligible, and nor are educational establishments or our commercial operators or individuals who are self-employed. The leisure operators and individuals who are self-employed will need to use the government schemes that are available to them, which Jake will go through later. Could we go to slide 7, please? Thank you. So what won't they fund before we focus on what they will? So this fund is one of last resort. If you can claim via the government funding that was announced a few weeks ago, then you'll not be eligible for this funding in terms of staffing, business rates, rent, etc. So new activities and events are not eligible. This is an emergency fund, not one for development. So capital costs and costs beyond July 2020 are also not supported by this fund. There'll be different funds to support us beyond July. The next slide, please. So very importantly, what will they fund? They'll fund relatively standard items attached to fixed costs that during lockdown you will still be paying. If you own or rent a building like a clubhouse, a bowling club, or you own your own ground and are paying overheads or utilities associated with it while income generation is suspended, this is definitely something you need to apply for. One of the things that's there is around casual staff, and this is probably one of the trickiest things to deal with, particularly for seasonal clubs who haven't actually moved into employing their casual staff yet, but might do so each year. The government guidance around casual staff is not 100% clear, and this is when your account showing what you've paid out on last year on staff, utilities, rent, all of those things will prove to be really, really useful to you now. You always knew there was a reason why you kept good accounts. Can I have slide 9, please? So how much will they fund? Sport England will fund between £300 and £10,000. On an exceptional basis, they may fund more than £10,000, but this will be pretty unlikely. And I just want to say that while £300 perhaps doesn't sound like a huge amount of money, it's just a remembering how long it takes to raise £300 if you're a club. And so if you're making losses of this or more between now and the end of July, do put in an application. The application is light touch and is much, much easier than organising a sponsored something or a summer fete or a race night, which is something you might like to do virtually if this carries on. The grant will fund income losses, so it's not looking at development but just losses from the 1st of March through to projected losses to the 31st of July 2020. So you do need to project your losses if you are applying, and you will need to do that. They have already received over 500 applications, so people are projecting their losses. I make a plea not to be greedy. There won't be enough money to go around for everyone as it is, so only apply for what you are losing. I need to emphasise that only apply once. It's something that is really important. So if you're a seasonal sport and finish at the end of April, just claim for those months, so you can claim for March and April. However, if you're a cricket club or other summer season sport, you need to project your losses appropriately to the end of July. And again, using last year's accounts is probably the easiest way to do this. Can we have the next slide, please? So moving on to things that they ask on the form and some of the criteria. Because there will not be enough funding to go around, Sport England have put in some priority criteria that might give you a sort of nudge ahead of the others, I suppose. However, regardless of whether you are based in a priority area or working with priority groups, you should apply if you are making financial losses due to coronavirus regardless. As ever, disadvantaged areas on the index of multiple deprivation will gain some priority. These areas can be found on the Somerset Intelligence Network website, and I've put the link on the bottom of the slide if you're unsure if you fit into one of these. You may also be able to make a case if many of your membership come from these areas, even if your club is not directly within that area. Target groups. Sport England have deemed the target groups women and girls, disabled people, lower socioeconomic groups, Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups, LGBT+, older people, or those with long-term health conditions as their target. So if your membership has a significant number of those, or that you run, if I take cricket, if you run a girls and women's team which is affected, then do make that really clear. They'll ask you on the form what you do and who benefits, and this is the place to put in the areas and the target groups you serve, highlighting where you hit the criteria. Even if you're not strong in either criteria, I'm going to make a plea, still apply. As if you're unsuccessful, SASP can then speak to you if you're in our area about how we may be able to help further. As I said before, casual staffing is difficult, and they will look closely at what you've delivered in the last 12 months or last season. Very importantly, they will want to know how you are staying in touch with your membership and participants, and they directly ask this question on the form. This is really, really important to Sport England, as they wish to keep those people who are already engaged in sport and physical activity still engaged when normality returns. They do not want what we would say are our core people within our sports clubs and activities. We don't want their activity levels to drop. And you also need to retain your membership. Sport England will be really interested in the efforts you are making to retain and connect your membership or your participants and keep their sense of belonging to the physical activity and sport you provide. We've got a slide on this later, and Laura Carter, our workforce lead, is supporting this area of work too. Jake, have the next slide, please. So on the financial need, Sport England are interested in the short-term financial impact of coronavirus with this fund. They know many clubs and small organisations do not have a huge amount of cash flow and want to get funds out quickly, and they are trying to turn these round pretty quickly. However, you will need to tell them how you will spend their funding and how you have calculated the value of the funds you are asking for, which is based on need. I'm suggesting that your accounts from last year, as a really easy piece of information that you will have as a club, will help show Sport England what your fixed costs, fixed ongoing costs are, particularly in terms if you own a building or you rent a building, in terms of utilities or any equipment hire, etc. And what sort of casual staff you employ during the March to July period usually, and how much they cost. If you do not have any kind of prepared accounts, it may be worth looking back at bank statements over the last 12 to 18 months and detailing where your fixed costs are to prove the value of any requests for funding. Sport England are also interested in your reserves. They obviously just want the club sector to survive as well as possible through this difficult period. They absolutely recognise that clubs and organisations should have reserves, which may be related to sinking funds or future improvements. If this is the case and your reserves are significant, you may wish to provide a committee minute proving this is the case and why these funds are set aside, but certainly do try to justify it. You don't have to submit this information, but the more you submit in support of your application, the easier and quicker you will get an answer. And you'll also look like a well-organised organisation. The submission of documents is self-explanatory when going through the online form. You have to send them separately through email. But if it's going to take you ages to find certain pieces, I would not worry about a committee minute for your reserves and just explain that. Lastly, they will ask what the consequences of not getting funding will be. It might be the demise of your club, and that's very serious. But it also might be serious financial hardship. It might be not being able to run the same number of teams next year, or it might be having no women or girls team, etc. Just let them know what that hardship might be. You don't have to be wildly dramatic around it if it's not going to mean the demise of your club, but obviously it was going to put your club into financial hardship. This is as much as they ask you on the funding. It is really light touch, and that's basically how much they need, and very worth doing if your club is suffering losses. Remember, this situation might go on until July, so what feels fine now as suffering some loss might feel different in a couple of months' time. I know that cricket are looking at a number of different scenarios with start dates at different times of the season. And if we don't get a playing season, then obviously that hardship might feel particularly key. SASP are here to help our Somerset organisations through the process, and Jake, Laura, Hayley and myself have all been working with Sport England for over 20 years or more, and be really happy to help you where you need it with applications and beyond during this really unusual time. We want you to return to your sport and activity strong and ready to go and engage your members into getting active again, because we're all missing our sport. I've just had a question. Our older members who rely on social involvement are also important. Because you can't include them in, you can't include your older members purely because that isn't about suffering a financial loss, though obviously you might get a loss in VP contributions or contribution, but in terms of those emergency fund loss is probably not quite the same. But make a point where it tells about, where it asks you about connecting with your membership, to add those people in. Could we have the next slide, please? So the other Sport England funds that I mentioned at the beginning was the Innovation Fund. This fund is not open for applications as yet, but will be there to help focus our minds on things that could get people who have been on lockdown, motivating them to move more. The fund will look to accelerate good ideas and get us all back on our feet. If you follow our social media and sign up for our newsletter on our website, we will announce this as soon as we know more. This absolutely, I think, will come to the fore in the May-June time as we get a better idea as to when we all might be able to meet up as clubs again. And Sport England will have a lot more criteria then. I'm going to hand on to Jake for the remainder of the webinar, just to finish off this section and then to move on to some government guidance. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. So national governing bodies of sport have put out some basic guidance around playing, but we haven't really seen too much in the way of financial support yet. Except from the English Cricket Board and the Lawn Tennis Association. Most are waiting for the Sport England money to work through the system, and those that have put out guidance, like the ECB, who announced a £2 million package for emergency aid, did not put any process or ability to apply for this as yet. On Friday last week as well, the LTA also announced a £20 million package of support for clubs and coaches, and further information has been coming out in the last few days of this week. Although it does look like that a lot of those funds are made up of loans as well. Most other NGBs are more likely to use their money to get people playing again after we return to some normality. Again, follow our social media, which you can see on the slide for updates as we get them from each NGB or other organisation. Please do also keep in touch with us. We are keen to help, and we may be able to provide some very local solutions too in Somerset. So I'm just going to focus on the specific support that SASP can give. Many clubs may well not need emergency funding to see out this period, and this might not be their first concern. Regardless of this, SASP wishes to support our clubs and organisations at this time. We do not have big pots of money to do this, but we want to share our skills and time as much as we can with you guys. Laura has provided some really great information on our active workforce page, which the link is at the bottom in that pink box. She'll happily provide a webinar or recording of one as to how to get the most out of your social media, but please post requests on our Facebook page or even in this chat. We're also trying to collate the free training out there that is available for everyone, because obviously it's a great opportunity to do that now. Online safeguarding is now available for first timers, so an excellent way to save some money and get your workforce through this period. Laura's collated guidance on some really practical club matters, such as holding virtual AGMs and moving your committee online, which have been produced by Club Matters from Sport England. And we would encourage all clubs to sign up for the email news from Club Matters so that you can keep up to date with what's happening. Finally, as Jane has already said, SASP is keen to support you, and if you are unsuccessful with the Sport England application, or have a training need, or want to use this time to think about the future and are based in Somerset, get in touch for a discussion and we'll direct you to the right member of staff. So just on some practical advice now. So we just thought we'd finish this section with some practical advice. Obviously, keep good financial records about how this is impacting on you. There's a really good document on Club Matters about financial planning, but it will help clarify your thoughts if you need to project costs into July. It goes without saying, try to reduce organisational costs, like turning your heating and water off if possible, and do communicate regularly with your membership through whichever medium everyone is using, whether that's WhatsApp, using a regular webinar or email or text. It really is important that you communicate with your membership at this time. And I think the interesting thing around this is membership and how you look to deal with your membership. We're seeing some really clever examples, and it'd be great if we can share some of these things on the chat, of clubs asking for membership up front from the 1st of April if they're coming into a summer season, and then their membership will start from whenever the club activity can continue. But in terms of a cash flow, they've still got that money up front. You really do need to keep an eye on your cash flow. Remember, the emergency fund is open while this scenario is ongoing, but when the money's gone, it's gone. So, you know, there's already been 500 applications, so you need to apply to this over the next few weeks. Otherwise, potentially you could miss out. Finally, do keep in touch. We have lots of contact between us and a whole lot of goodwill to support you all through this time. Now, before we go on to the government slides, we'll just pick up any questions that we've had on the first part. So Jane, do you want to pick up on those?
Yes, we've just had the one that from Michael, which I think I covered, but also one from Darren around retained coaches. And I've just replied to that one to say that actually, so the question was, can we include claims for coaching costs for retained self-employed coaches who continue to be paid during the shutdown and who are unable to claim through the government scheme for the self-employed, as it's only a small proportion of income? So it depends a little bit upon their contract, and I think that it's a more complex one, but potentially I think the answer is yes, Sport England will look at that, but I have asked you to email me because that is a slightly more complex question, of which I suspect we might have the answer, but might bore everybody with it if it's and then we'll put it on the FAQs.
There was a question around, can you please clarify if there are any circumstances where academies can apply against this fund, where we run our sports facilities?
Sorry, so schools, academies can't apply. So no. Educational establishments can't apply. If it's a club that uses an educational establishment, then that's obviously very different. Sorry, I'm not sure I got the question completely.
Yeah, and also there was a question around whether schools and academies can apply for the Innovation Fund. I don't think we've seen any details around who can apply for that innovation fund yet.
No, I think that they haven't decided. I think that we were on a call this morning, and it feels like they're putting that 55 million will be sectioned into a number of different sections, of which I have no idea what those sections will be. So we have got what is the success rate of claims and what are the timescales from claim to payment. They're looking for a 10-day turnaround because of cash flow issues. They're looking to get the money out fast. The success rate, I haven't been given any details of that at all, but I suspect that the success rate, I expect they will look in a lot of detail for people who are asking for 8, 9, 10,000, but for those organisations that are looking for £1,000, they might be a whole lot less worried and spend a lot less time on the admin around that. So I don't know what the success rate is, but they're looking for a 10-day turnaround. The Rugby Force scheme has gone quite well. Will there be any facility available to assist with this? Sorry, I don't quite understand the question. Will there be any facility? Oh, sorry. Is that I don't know Rugby Force particularly well. Do Jake, Hayley, or Laura know? I'm going to have to come back to you with that one because I don't know exactly what Rugby Force is.
I think that's like the,
no, sorry, I don't.
I think that it's like the cricket ground force where they all come onto site pretty much, I'm thinking. I think it might be around that. I'm not sure. Might need to follow that up with some more information.
So if it is that, it's only if you're making losses from coronavirus that you would be able to apply for any funding. Okay, so I've asked for a repeat of the targets. So they are women and girls. Okay, make sure I give you the right thing. Not helpful. Women and girls, disabled people, lower socioeconomic groups, Black, Asian and minority ethnic groups, LGBT plus, older people, or those with long-term health conditions. So that's for Paul. John, to what does the expense period relate? Expenses actually to be paid in that period or a proportion of the annual expenses. So, John, I think that what you're getting at, this is about losses that you're making. It's not about income that you are not generating. It is about what are you having to pay out while you are not generating income. So and then it is it's not a proportion of that. You can put the whole. So if you've got a clubhouse and you've got still got utility bills to pay in this period, where obviously you're not pulling in any membership income, or memberships being frozen, then you can apply to pull that money back. Yeah, so absolutely, John, John Clare, having read that, you will be able to, doesn't matter that you only pay one membership fee a year, you absolutely will be able to show the losses of when you might have frozen membership. So a lot of clubs have frozen their membership for while they have no playing season. So if you play all year round and you freeze the membership for 3 months and give people an extra 3 months at the end of their normal year of membership because they haven't been able to access anything, you will be able to use the emergency fund to fund those losses that you have seen, which is all those fixed costs that you talk about. We'll put something clearer on our FAQ.
Okay, we'll move on now, and we'll pick up any further questions at the end of this next section. So the next 5 slides will work through the key government guidance we have on funding and potential help to businesses and organisations. Now, depending on how your club is structured or how your business is structured, then some of this advice will be applicable, some might not be. So the first one's around the job retention scheme. So furloughing has now become a pretty commonplace word. About 3 weeks ago, I don't think anyone would have heard of it, but I'm sure now everyone has heard of it. And in reality, it just means a paid leave of absence. If you have staff who are on pay-as-you-earn salaries, then you can furlough these staff. You do need to do that with their agreement, and you can claim back 80% from the government up to a maximum of £2,500 per month. You can choose to pay your employee 80%, or you can top this up to 100%, or anything in between. That's your choice. You would need to pay up front for these staff and then claim it back through a government portal, which isn't currently set up at the moment. First payments will not be made until the end of April at the earliest, so you'll need to have enough cash flow to deal with this. The agreement is easy if you're furloughing at 100% of salary, but if you're choosing 80%, the staff member has to agree unless there is a specific ability within their contract to lessen their pay. However, given the alternative might be redundancy, it's likely that most individuals would agree to furlough for future job security. Furlough is done in 3-week blocks. Staff can go in and out of furlough, but while on furlough, cannot work or volunteer for their organisation. Although furlough staff can volunteer elsewhere, for example, through the NHS Good Sam scheme, the local authority, or the locally coronavirus support groups that are in place, which you'll see over Facebook. They cannot do anything for your organisation that might be seen to pull in revenue or be classified as business development, e.g. networking for your organisation, etc. Remember that while furloughed, you still need to pay national insurance and pensions, and that staff holiday and continuous service rights still occur. A formal letter outlining all of this should be sent to all furlough employees, and you should also get a signed statement back from the person that's being furloughed to say that they are actually happy to be furloughed. So we touched on it before, but this relates to casual staff on payroll. They may be on timesheeted or similar. They can still be furloughed, although the guidance isn't crystal clear around this. We're suggesting that furloughing these casual staff so that you can at least try to claim on their behalf. This guidance will become clearer from the government. We will let those of you who are interested know. So if you want to keep in touch about that, just put your names in the comment box and we can follow up on that. So this slide will be of most interest to self-employed coaches, and tennis obviously has quite a lot of those. For those that are self-employed, you need to have submitted a tax return in the 2018-19 year and be trading in the 2019-20 year and intend to continue to trade in the tax year that we're currently in, 2021. You also need to show that you've clearly lost income due to COVID-19. Your trading profits must be less than 50,000 and more than half of your income from self-employment. Again, you will be able to claim a taxable grant worth 80% of your trading profits up to a maximum of 2,500. Now, you can't yet apply for this scheme. HMRC will contact you if you're eligible for the scheme and invite you to apply online. So just looking at the other help, there is some other help available for businesses detailed in our last 2 slides. If you're a UK VAT registered business and have a VAT payment due between the 20th of March 2020 and the 30th of June 2020, you have the option to either defer the payment until a later date or pay the VAT as due as normal. HMRC will not charge interest or penalties on any amount deferred as a result of the Chancellor's announcement. However, you will still need to submit your VAT returns to HMRC on time, and if you choose to defer your VAT payment as a result of coronavirus, you must pay the VAT due on or before the 31st of March 2020. You don't need to tell the HMRC that you're deferring your VAT payment. Further information about how to repay the VAT you've deferred will be available soon. You can also pay statutory sick pay to an employee who is self-isolating for more than 4 days because of coronavirus. From the first day, HMRC expects the law to change to allow small and medium-sized businesses or enterprises to reclaim any 2 weeks of statutory sick pay they have paid to employers who are self-isolating because of coronavirus. This law is not in place yet. The government is also introducing a business rates holiday for retail, hospitality and leisure businesses in England for the 2020 to 21 tax year. You don't need to do anything for this. It should happen automatically. However, if you've not heard anything by the end of this week and you think you're entitled to a holiday, then we would strongly suggest that you contact your local authority or your relevant local authority where you pay your business rates to. There is also a one-off small business funding grant of £10,000 for those that are in receipt of small business rate relief or rural rate relief. And in addition to that, a £25,000 grant is available for retail and hospitality and leisure businesses with a property with a rateable value of between £15,000 and £51,000. These, along with the £10,000 grants, are available from your local authority. And if you need any further information on that, go to the gov.uk website. All businesses and self-employed people in financial distress and with outstanding tax liabilities may be eligible to receive support with their tax affairs through HMRC's Time to Pay service. These arrangements are agreed on a case-by-case basis and are tailored to the individual circumstances and liabilities. Eligibility is again on the government website, so that was .gov.uk website. Extensions for filing your accounts to Companies House and the Charity Commission can now be applied for. Companies House is a simple online form, and the Charity Commission still requires a telephone call, and details of this are on the Charity Commission website. Please do use the government website. We're happy to arrange something with our accountants if it's needed, but it's likely that if you require this type of support, you've already had discussions with your accountant. And then just finally, on the accounts and IR35, there are extensions on both of those. And that information is again on the .gov website. So it's now time for any further questions. We want to thank you for booking onto this webinar. Stay in touch and please do use us to backboard any queries you have. Thank you, and we'll just pick up on any questions now. Jane, do you want to pick up on any?
Sorry, yeah, I'll pick up on the. So we had a question on some of the our membership is for all year, but the vast majority of our income comes in the summer season. And so could we partly relate some of the overheads in the winter to the summer? And the answer to that is no. You will have to show the losses between March and end of July. You will need to show those losses, and they're not interested in income that you haven't received as such. They want to know what the costs are when you don't have that income coming in, and so that's the answer to that one. Mandy asked about furloughing employees post on the 23rd of March. Unfortunately, you can only furlough for those employed on or before the 28th of February. Is the small business grant repayable? So it's a grant, so it's not repayable. It's not a loan. There are loans available, but no, that's a grant. So Sally has asked for email addresses on the slides. Sally, if you send the email address, you can also go onto the SAS website where you will find both myself, Jake, Laura and Hayley's email addresses too. So just direct your questions to jknowles@sasp.co.uk or whoever you'd like to do so, and we will pick those up as fast. So
Jane, there was a question a little bit further back, which we might have missed. Some Roger Higgins claims must not predate 1st of March, but 70% of our income outdoor bowling club covers in.
Sorry, I thought I just picked that one up, Jake, to say that.
One? Sorry.
Sorry, you can only manage losses between March and July. Yeah, I'll put it. Jake, could you just put in the chat box yours and my email addresses, please? Though they are on the slides, and we'll send the slides out immediately today. Jason has asked, will we be doing the time to listen course next week? I hadn't thought about putting it online, though I know there are online time to listen courses. Laura Carter, do you want to just take this on, because we had a conversation about this?
Yeah, I've been in touch with CPSU, and at the moment they're not allowing the time to listen course to take place online. So the UK Coaching Safeguarding Protecting Children is on the online virtual classroom, but at the moment CPSU aren't moving time to listen online. But if that changes, I will be in contact with people. But Jason, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow about it.
Thank you, Laura. Jake, this is one for you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll just pick up on the LTA. Can you confirm if the LTA is refunding the LTA registration fee for this year? My understanding is that the 2019-20 registration fee will be refunded for LTA registered venues. I think it equates to about £1 million. I don't know if it's automatic or not. I haven't seen any details on that yet, but you will be getting that back.
That's great. I don't think Gary Maynard, we will wait for you to be in touch about your tennis coaches, and I will be, and if whoever had the question around their retained cricket coaches, then we will answer those individually and then put them on the group on the Facebook page as well. I just want to thank everybody for coming online today. Please do keep checking back on our website. There's a thing that tells you when it's been updated, but do follow us on social media or download our newsletters, because that will give you the most up-to-date information, and we send it out as soon as we hear it. So stay safe, stay home, stay active, stay local. Thank you so much, and look after yourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.